Siri, can you put my phone on Do Not Disturb as well as my computer if you have that capability? As the day goes on, like I'll lose the jacket, then I'll lose the jumper, then I'll lose my long sleeve shirt, then I'll lose my short sleeve shirt, then I'll lose my singlet, and then eventually I'll end up just in board shorts and no shoes. But it
Yeah.
just, and then the day will get in the afternoon, I'll add a layer on again. It's my birthday today, so I'm getting a bunch of birthday messages. So I'm trying to figure out how to put my computer on Do Not Disturb. Otherwise, it'll just keep going ding, ding.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
How many rotations around the earth today?
Well, I'm 36, so is that 36 complete
Think
rotations?
so. Yeah. Or I mean around the sun. Wait, I had to know. Hmm. I don't remember how it works. Oh dear.
Just gonna make sure we're on Do Not Disturb and then we can kick off.
Okay.
So you put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
That's good. As we were
I
getting
don't.
ready, my I had to kick my teenager out of the house, and I was like, "If you wait any longer, you're going to be in the video walking down the stairs." And he was like,
That's
"Bye." He
okay.
like got out of here right away.
That's okay. Be cool to have another conversation. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Did I ever tell you that Andrew and I recorded a podcast together like 4 years ago? We were driving home one day, and I was like pretty active with this podcast at the time, and he was like, I want to record a podcast right now about what I'm going to be, how I'm going to be as a father, and like
Yeah.
about fatherhood. And I capsuled it, like he can do whatever he wants with it when he's old enough to decide that. But
That's
it
great.
was so cool. It was like 45 minutes of talking about being a dad to sons. And then it got to
Yeah.
being dad of a daughter. And he was like, I have no idea what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I still have a bit of I don't know, a dream or a seed about being a father to a daughter. There's something like in my field feels really important for me with
Yeah.
that. Who knows where it'll end up, but like I have a nice relationship with Katie's Katie's daughter. She calls me stepdad, which technically isn't true, but isn't accurate. But she calls me stepdad, and she's like wants to come over and hang at my house and stuff like that, which is really beautiful. And I have like I'm getting more and more young girl clients.
Yeah.
And there's just something really special about it. Maybe I'm just because I had brothers and I've got two boys, and so I just haven't had that. And I've mentioned to you last time when I last chat about like how impactful you've been in my life as a person, but also with that like feminine energy. And so yeah, like my relationship, yeah, with those girls, it's very different. It's very special. It feels very wholesome.
Yeah.
Um, when I'm with these girls, yeah.
Yeah. Totally. It's very, very different for sure. Having like my daughter-in-law that lives with us right now. And it's like the first time having a, and but it's not, she's not little. She's like early 20s, So, but I have moments where I'm like, like she'll be driving alone at nighttime and like maybe is the car gonna, and then I'm like, wow, you would not be worried at all if this was like your
I
16.
know.
Yeah,
It's
because
so
it's a young woman,
uh,
I'm suddenly like, and she's very capable and all that, but it's like it is really, really beautiful. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like you already have that with your stepdaughter. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very I'm fascinated by how differently I show up as a man with girls and boys. Like my two sons, and then I have my brother, who I'm very close with, has two daughters, so I have two nieces, and then I have yeah, Maeve, and then my female clients. It's very different.
Let's just
It's
actually
very
start right here with this as a starting
okay.
point. So, welcome
Yeah.
to the Warriors Raised podcast. And thank you for joining me, Sean. We were just kind of talking beforehand, but just to kick it off right off the bat, when you're working with young athletes. I'm curious for you, like, what's the main difference you notice between working with um, boys and girls or young men and young women?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a big difference between boys and girls, and then there's a lot of, as you would know this, you've been facilitating and coaching, mentoring yourself. There's also a lot of nuances and subtleties with individual people. I think the main difference, generally speaking, generally speaking, when I'm coaching a boy, I'm in the mindset of, and I'm sort of sharing the message of, hey, you can do this, get after it. And I'm tapping into that warrior spirit, like, come on, man, you've got this. Like, you know, you do. Like, and it's like, yeah, I do. I'm kind of like stoking the fire. Like that, come on. Like, typically the boys that I work with are like, they get frustrated with themselves because they know that they can do really well, and they're making mistakes on, and they get frustrated with themselves. But I'm like, there's a kind of tenderness there of like, hey, just let it, accept it, accept it and move on. And then there's also, if they're not performing the way they want to, I'm this like inspiration. It's like, yeah, man, like let's get after it. Like, stop tolerating this less than best from yourself. Like, come on, you can do this. And I'm just kind of fueling that fire of like, yeah, I do want to play really well and I can play really well and I will go and give it my best. And there needs to be no fear. It taps into this warrior spirit of, I'm just going to go out there, no fear, full confidence, full expression, and just give it everything. Like I'm going to die out there, so to speak. And so they go do that and they have their best game ever. With the girls, it's typically more like more emotional based. Like what's going on here and here, and they're sharing how they don't feel like they fit in with the team, or they're sharing how like they're getting upset because of this. And it's more like fatherly, gentle, hearing them and then they often cry on the call and they just feel like really seen and heard.
Mhm.
There's sometimes a part of that, but it's rarely where I'm like, hey, go out there and you can do it. It's more of like just hearing them, having them share their emotions. And there's this beautiful, like sort of fatherly big brother energy that I'm stepping into in a way, which is really wholesome.
Mhm.
But it's both. I'm like Big Brother here with I guess it's Big Brother with both in a sense. With these guys like this, the boys like Big Brother, like this mentor that believes in them and just can see in them what they are capable of, and is just saying, hey, just remind them of what they can do, and that I believe in them, and then they go out there and do that. And with the girls, it's similar sort of principles, but like I'm there's a softness there that I'm holding.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mm.
that's super cool. That it totally makes sense. Yeah. Just that, like, yeah, just having that. I know for myself, any challenging thing that I'm facing, usually if I can like either be with the emotions myself or like talk them through, then I can go and like perform in whatever it is, whether it's like something like that or just everyday life, so much better. Um, yeah, that's very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
different unique operating systems.
And it's interesting because sometimes I'll run 3 or 4 coaching calls back to back.
Yeah.
And so like I'll have like a 10-year-old girl and she's like super bubbly and like, "Ah." And then I'll have like a 16-year-old guy who's like super looked. I'm like, yeah. And then like I'm kind of like adjusting, but also like holding my center at the same time. And then there's like like I'm laughing internally enough these girls. And then I'm at the moment because I'm training other coaches to sort of be a part of the vision is to like have coaches, mentors all over the world that any young athlete who's experiencing, self-doubt, getting in their head, fear, anxiousness about making mistakes, and all this, to have someone that they can go to in their area geographically who they can talk to, right? And so I've in the last maybe 2 weeks, I've hired half a dozen coaches from different places around the world and training them up. So I'm recording the coaching sessions, and yeah, I'm laughing as I'm uploading them to the coaching file because then they're seeing me like I'm like trying to train them, but I'm also like, this is just how it is. Just learn from this, And I'm laughing, and I find it humorous. It's like I'm trying to teaching how to coach, but it's like they'll see different versions of me, which is part of the
Yeah.
coaching in itself. Like they're seeing me with a 10-year-old girl and then a 17-year-old boy who plays like rugby league and a 10-year-old girl who does ballet. It's like, you know, and they're
Yeah.
like trying to, in my head, this isn't the case, but in my head, I'm like, they're trying to learn how to coach. I'm like, am I this? I'm like, it's all of it, right? That's part of
Uh,
it.
and just seeing like a really funny like wait like video where you like slice and you like get the wrong like you know what I mean like where
All right.
you put the joke in the
Yeah.
the wrong group
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
chat like
There's like with me with like a 9-year-old girl ballet, and it's like mixed with the 18-year-old boy, and it's like, yeah,
the rugby player yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you never know. Sometimes I'm sure you are like mixing and matching. You know, so probably sometimes your 18-year-old rugby player needs a little bit of whatever you're giving to the
Totally,
9-year-old ballet as well.
totally, totally. Sometimes it's like, as you know, it's like breaking down that wall of who we think we
Uh-huh.
are and how we think we have to show up. It's like totally throwing a what's the saying? Throwing a, I don't know, throwing a, I don't know, I've totally lost the saying, but like throwing a
A
spanner in the
curveball
works.
or
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
curveball.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Just to
yeah,
break down all the limitations and the ego stuff.
yeah. That's really cool. Tell me more about like how it's going with training. I would love to hear anyways if you want to share. What's the experience for you like training other people in this, if we can call it a method? I know
Mm,
it's like this, would you call it a method? What do you call it? You're
I
like,
don't
I
call
don't
it
have
anything.
words. I just show up and do this thing.
Yeah, you know this very well, Veronica. It's like one of the things that I'm learning and developing now is this notion of how do I teach something that I don't necessarily understand or have really unpacked myself, because particularly with the niche that I'm in now with the youth athletes, it's been about 3.5 years of like full time in the trenches, like 20, 30 calls, coaching calls a week,
Mhm.
and I've just been getting after it every day. And now it's like people want to learn. They see that I'm having some success with getting amazing results and from a business perspective. And they're like, oh yeah, and now I'm training these coaches to then have this around the world and replicate it. And I'm like in my own head, like, oh, I don't even know how I do what I do. Right. I do in a way, but I haven't necessarily unpacked it myself because I've just been doing it. So it's like, how do you tie your shoelaces? Oh, I don't know. I just tie them. Right. But it's so when I just record a coaching call, I just put it up there and it's like, here it is. Whatever you get out of it is what you get out of it. There's certain principles and philosophies because coaching is, a science and an art in some way. Um, but yeah, I guess there's certain themes that I'm coming back to, certain tools, certain themes. There is like a science to it. There's just so much that I've learned over 10 years of coaching,
Mhm.
that I didn't even know that I do necessarily. Um, but as I've been training, I'm more so also at the same time assessing what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, how I do it this way. But it's fantastic because then I just record it and they can just make sense of whatever I'm doing, and then we can discuss it and I'm unpacking it. I'm sort of learning what I do by teaching it.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm like in learning. I'm like, okay, this is why I do what I do, and they'll ask, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I didn't even know. I've done 10,000 more probably coaching sessions. So I'm like, okay, now here's why I'm doing and how I do it this way.
Mhm.
It's not the way, but this is why I do it, and this is why it's effective and why it works. So
Mhm.
it's been a really beautiful experience to be able to share something that I've just been doing so much for so long. And now I'm feeling
Mhm.
like I get to teach it, which is really the next level for me.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very cool. I'm excited. And yeah, obviously you're anybody learning from you will develop their own style and
Mhm.
like as you've shared before, so much of what you're doing is actually helping the athlete connect to like the most authentic version of themselves or like their own authenticity so that they can just
Yeah.
go out there and do their best um, from a very strong foundation rather than like contort. I don't want to. I mean, I am using my own words, and feel free to change it or correct me, but like, you know, or you're aiming to have them go in with a really strong foundation of like who they are and being able to perform at a high
Yeah.
level without like going into a sort of detrimental mind space to in order to perform, right? And kind of
Mm,
collapsing that pressured paradigm or
mm.
not that pressure itself is bad. Pressure sometimes can be is, you know, can also be like part of the like sacred element of competition, right? Is like there is
Mm.
pressure, like that's the point, right? But I
Yeah.
guess like healthy pressure versus unhealthy pressure.
Yeah, how we handle it. Like large part of I've avoided necessarily going too much with the when I'm teaching the coaches, like into methods. Yeah, taking some breaths is going to help. Yeah, using positive self-talk and these other tools and journaling and visualization, all these things are going to help, right? They are tools that work and we share them with the client. But something that I'm more interested in with the coaching and then with the clients is like, how who am I? It's kind of that notion of like who you are speaks so loudly I can't hear what you're saying. It's like this is the
Mhm.
thing that I have struggled in a way, or I'm getting better at to communicate with the coaches, which is it's you.
Mhm.
It's you. Like the work to make a great coach, it's about becoming like this empty vessel, this unconditional loving safe space that they're missing in other areas of their life, which is how you hold space. So it's actually about how you can hold space for yourself. And really the work is on yourself as a coach to help yourself clean out any of your own junk and distortions so that you can hold this space. And then whenever everything that you're saying is just naturally coming out of love. I remember when I first started coaching, I was very heady and I had all these different models and I would do, here's this right thing. And I would give them these questionnaires and it was like 50 like questions because I wanted to be a great coach. But at some point, I don't even know where it was, but I just started to drop all of it. And now I just talk. And now I
Mhm.
just listen. I'm just super present. And I don't even think before I talk. I don't even have a plan when I come in. We're just there in love together. And it's just like, that is the thing. So how do I teach that? It's like, yeah, here's how I've done it myself and how I'm doing it myself, clearing
Mhm.
myself out of my own fears and insecurities and my own distortions and keeping a sound and aligned energy myself really is it. And then use the tools and then use the strategies or whatever it is. But it's mostly about how can I show up with this person as loving, as present, and as free and as joyful myself.
Mhm.
And then the things that come out of my mouth, I know how to coach and I know the topic back to front. So it's just like just trusting that whatever I say is going to be right for them right now. But it's very intuitive and instinctual, which is the one thing that I've kind of have, I guess, struggled with in my head about how do I teach that. But
Mhm.
it's basically just letting coaches know that's how I do it. It's very intuitive, very instinctual. And I'm just kind of being a channel here from God and
Yeah, it's
coaching that
so
way.
I love how it actually is just like it's the same as anything that you train for. Like when you know, for competing where you're when you get into like the actual competition, you're not necessarily like thinking through the moves. Like there's a level of like hitting a
Yeah.
sort of I don't know what I'm sure it's like a different brainwave that your brain hits where you're you know all the repetitions and all the movements is the same thing performing dance where like something takes over and you know like I've had dance students who are like I have no idea what just happened in the last 5 minutes like I don't know like I went somewhere else and I'm like well you did great like your body moved and it was really beautiful but like there's something that happens in that you know it's the same thing with like fighting or competing in other sports that there's a supernatural element of it that is like all the hours of training allows you to like step out of this very like heady space and into just being really present and this from my own observations and my own experiences is when you get to um, like perform the best is when you're incredibly present
Yeah.
and just like you're dropped into this state where it's you know and it's the same thing with what you're talking about because you're not thinking in advance about what you're going to say to rugby client or
Yeah,
ballet. It's just like you have a level of competency that you'll know what to say in the moment. And yeah,
100%.
and that it's so
Yeah.
cool because it comes right back to that like authenticity and presence that is
Hmm.
like kind of, from what I understand, is a big part of what it's about or what you're aiming for.
You're exactly right. And thank you for that reflection because I haven't necessarily framed it that way. It's come to my mind, but the framing that way of it's a useful way that I can frame it to the coaches, which is this is exactly what we're teaching. It's about, yeah, know how to coach and know the tools and the things to say and then just be super present and then kind of just let all that stuff come out naturally, instinctively, intuitively. It's the same idea. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool. It actually makes me think of one of my jujitsu coaches. She's a black belt, and she told me that for years competing, she would be super, super nervous before competing, and then something shifted for her, and she became like the fighter who'd be like sleeping under the bleachers. They'd have to go find her and be like, "Hey, you're up right now." And like it was like this totally new fighting style. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, this is just like it's like I talk about like accessing God mode. It's kind
Mhm.
of what we're doing. And then peak performance, they might call it flow state or
Mhm.
spirituality, they would call it like enlightenment or nirvana or whatever they might call it. There's all these different words, and I noticed that like we spoke about this on the last podcast that we recorded. And um but yeah, my story was like all into sports. My first word was ball, and it was like all about just the training and the getting better and the performing. And then somewhere along the way, I developed that pressure of like something happened around the age of, I remember like what it was, like the actual thing that happened was that I remember I was under nines, like I would win the 100 meter, the 200 meter, the 400 meter, the 800 meter. I was short, and I am sh quite short. I would win the high jump, and like the disc, like I just won all of it. And
Uh,
I at that time I was not competing with anyone. I was just playing. I was just expressing. And then I remember I won, must have been under nines or something like that. I won like the 200-meter final. And a friend of mine said to me, like, Sean, how are you so fast? Like, how can I get this fast? And it just threw my mind because at that moment I never thought about what people thought of me or how they saw me. They even saw me as fast. I didn't even like, I wasn't aware that other people were aware of me necessarily. And like, and there's just psychologically, I remember the shift changed in my mind. And then I began like coaching at that time. Like I was like, I don't even know how I'm that fast. And like he's like, you have really muscly legs and stuff. Like it's fully just threw my thing off because at that point I was just expressing, and then it became, oh, people are looking at me, and then it became almost insecure after that. Oh, do other people think that I passed? Maybe if I lose, then they don't think I'm fast anymore. Maybe they change how they see me, and like, I wasn't aware of it at the time, but that's what was happening, and that's kind of what happens around that age. What I noticed with young people, and then I became to the the I guess the script or the perception shifted from total freedom, not caring what anyone thinks, not even thinking about what other people think, just totally in my own body and in my own expression, to what is people thinking? Like, do they think I'm fast? Do they think? And then it just fully threw me into like this insecure, pressure-filled space for many, many years in athletic performance, but then also in everything that I was doing. It became about, or how are other people seeing this, right? And then I kind of been working on that for a while, um, and sort of, I guess, fixing that, correcting that, which is kind of what I do now, which is like get back to that place of full expression, full embodiment, full in the moment, full like how you're meant to be, who you are, without the doubt or the things in the mind. One of the point that I want to make, and I just kind of figured this out this morning, as I said, like it's my birthday today, and so I was like kind of reflecting. I went to the beach and I was reflecting on the past year, and then before I went to bed last night, I prayed, and I was just like kind of because I felt like a little bit underwhelmed by my year, to be honest. I was like, I didn't really do that much because I remember last year. my last birthday, and I was like, oh, I kind of had all these things, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be. I kind of build things up in my mind, like it's gonna be big. And then I was like, that was a really quick year. Was that really a year ago? That's crazy. It felt like a week ago. And like, did I even do that much? But then I kind of prayed last night when I went to bed, and I was kind of just asking for, a bit of direction. And, as we spoke about before, that prayer that you gave me, which is like clear anything that's not, from you, for you. And I've kind of just been doing that. And then I just woke up just feeling so good. And then all these things came to me about the path that I'm on and why I'm here and a sense of purpose and mission. But for about 5 years, I went through this sort of spiritual journey, which was all about be here now and be present. You know, kind of went down the road of like not wanting much and just being in this place of what and Buddhism call like supreme refuge, which is just presence, right? It's enlightenment, nirvana sort of things. And I'm like, oh, cool, got that, can do that. And then my world's come back around. It kind of the life brought me back around to this performance place because it was like I had unfinished business there within myself. And then I took all the things I learned through mindfulness, meditation, and spirituality, and I've kind of brought it back into, I'm bringing it back into and brought it back into sports, and now it's into performance. And now that these two worlds, which is what we're talking about, have merged, where it's like, yeah, all those lessons around mindfulness and presence and spirituality and bringing God and spirit into the world, and but taking that into performance. Because when I was in the spiritual world, I had long hair and I was just all about don't need anything, don't need money and stuff like that. And I was like, that's cool, true in a way. Can you still hear me? Okay, it's a little bit jagged, but we're back. Can you still hear
I
me?
think we're back. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
It only glitched on my end for a second. Basically
Um,
we got to long hair,
yeah. Yeah.
uh
Hippie thing.
like yeah,
Hmm.
and then coming like bringing it
Sure.
into like out of sort
Performance.
of a
Yeah.
from what I understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it. Sorry, I just let you.
Yeah. And so now it's like, it clicked to me. It's the signs have been there, but it's clicked to me that I'm bringing all of that understanding, those lessons I've learned about, yeah, mindfulness and being in the moment takes away anxiety. And it's all this. And there's this place that we're not really just humans. We're also souls and we're also one and we're also everything and everything's all one. And it's like this non-dual understanding that everything's interdependent, interconnected. Yeah, beautiful. And I also want to be like, and I also want to perform. And I felt like dirty. And when I was spiritual, I was felt dirty about like wanting stuff and all these desires. And then before that, I thought, oh, that's, beneath me. That's not. Now I see that it's all part of the same thing, which is like life wants this desire and life wants to be the most and make the most of yourself and have the most of everything. If it's a true like desire, it's from God, right? And so I'm sort of bringing this world in because the problem that I've seen in the spiritual world is like not chasing greatness, how I would describe it, or success, and those things that I thought were beneath or human, but are like really actually very divine.
Mhm.
But also on this other end, when I see these high performers and even in psychology and things like that in the kind of the world that I've come back into, which is like you're also missing, there's limitations in your understanding where there's actually something much more. And there's peak performance is getting out of your head and getting into the moment and accessing, divine power and God mode, right? And so it's coming back around to like, oh, this is this cool like thing that I'm a part of, which I'm, living and recognizing myself and kind of aligning with myself. And now I get to teach this, which is like, yeah, it's all about life and it's all about God and it's all about making the most of ourselves. And this is how you do it. And I get to teach sort of these spiritual themes um, to these high performers or these people that want to perform highly. Um, and at some point, I'll also teach performance to spiritual people. I feel like, yeah, I feel cool because it's very unique. We spoke about this on the last session, which was like it's very kind of very the work that I do is very niche and unique. It's because I'm living my own unique existence, and then when I have something that I feel really is important and is worth sharing,
Mhm.
um, I share it, and I feel like it's adding real value to the world.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. For anybody listening in, we recorded this podcast a week ago, and somehow I didn't record it. So we're back. And if there are gaps, it's because Sean and I already talked about this. I'm sorry.
Go listen to the last episode, everyone. It'll make complete sense what we're
Just
saying.
yeah, exactly. Just drop in on that. But yeah, I think it's also funny, like how um, I know so many people who've had that experience of like going into whatever their spiritual journey looks like, and sort of like removing themselves from, and then removing themselves from life to a certain extent, and then reaching a point where they're like, oh, actually, like the journey is in the in the mud, in the trenches, in the playground, like wherever it is, whatever your arena is, where you get to like
Mm,
show up and be tested and be tried and be challenged and be humbled. I think honestly the thing that
yeah,
makes me the most anxious is if I don't have environments in my life where I'm being humbled. Like I mean, there are other
mm,
things too, but like this is something that like I think we genuinely need. Like we need challenge in our lives. And
yeah,
um without it, it's like, yeah, it's not super great. Like we're here to learn and grow and expand continuously, but not just in like an
totally,
intellectual way, in a very
totally.
real time way.
100%. And I think, you asked me on the last week's podcast
On
that
private podcast.
we had a conversation about something that I was offering the kids in a way, and you asked me about my journey, and I said basically I'm the person that I needed, right? To these young people, I needed someone. I didn't have anyone to talk to. When I was going through these struggles, I wasn't even aware that I was necessarily going through the struggles. I had no one to go through, and I certainly didn't have the tools. And I think, to your point, the podcast I actually started when we spoke about my painting, which is like um, a quote from the movie Fight Club, which is, how well can you really know yourself if you've never been in a fight? And basically, this is what we're saying. You ask me, what does that mean to me, right? And basically, so what we're saying is like you got to be in the arena, right? You got to know what you're made of by putting yourself into that fight. You can't just stay out, right? But the problem that I see with that I had myself, and that I feel like a lot of young people and older people have, is that they don't have the wisdom and the tools. They don't have the support to actually know how to handle the challenge. They know that something's not right with how they're feeling and how they're performing or whatever that area of life is for them, but they don't have the wisdom, um, whether it's, connection through God, a mentor, their own understanding, their own life experience, their own tools to actually handle that challenge. And so I feel really, I guess, strongly about the importance of, yes, put yourself in the arena. You have to be in the arena, whether it's on a tennis court or whether it's on a rugby field or whether it's business or whether it's a romantic relationship, right? You got to put yourself into those situations. But also, I really struggle. I had a lot of challenge that I didn't know how to handle, particularly at a young age. And as I've grown, I've learned how to handle it through my own journeys around understanding how the mind works, and how thinking works and how the life works. And now I feel that I have the ability to handle myself. And there's also obviously gaps in my own understanding, but also like I've learned a bunch that I can offer to these kids. So it's like put yourself into that arena and also learn how to get support through spirit, through God, through mentors, through your own tools, through your own understandings. Because when we get when I've gotten good and when my clients get good and when people get good at handling challenge, life becomes so much more enjoyable and be so much less scary and so much more freeing because we know that whatever comes up, we can handle it. Before, and I think probably most people, if I might say this, I go out on a limb and say most people don't know how to handle their problems and their challenges. And so that they're scared by them and they avoid them and it throws them off and they don't progress through them, they don't grow through them, and they don't evolve through them.
Mm.
But when you learn how to win, and you learn how to, process your emotions and let go of fear and be guided and all these things. And you learn how to grow from these challenges, and life becomes much more freeing and easy because like, yeah, whatever you want me to do, God, like I've got it. Like you've got me, I've got myself, we've got each other. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think about how like you were talking about people not having the tools to solve a problem. Like I mean, I think about something simple like if you knew that you wanted to be able to lift something heavy. There's I love this. I don't even remember what the commercial was for, but it was a commercial of a grandfather who wanted to be able to lift his granddaughter to put the star on the Christmas tree. You've seen this, and so it's like him training. He has like a 35-pound kettlebell or whatever his granddaughter weighs, so that he'll be able to lift her up. And it's this like really big moment at Christmas time, and his daughter, like tears up. But it's like, yeah, there are a lot of things like that that aren't as obvious, like how to
Mhm.
train for them, and um, yeah, and just I think, and it's also interesting because like, for a lot of people, the more you start to think about it, the further it pulls you out of just being
Yeah.
like for you, where you're like you just ran and won every race, and then somebody was like, "How are you so fast?" And then suddenly you created an identity and became attached to it that you were like, "Oh, I need to be fast because that's now who I am." Like, and then the path of like feeling distorted and going down that, yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Um, Yeah, I would love to hear if you want to just share sort of your own journey a little bit more through sports and some of the challenges that you faced as a like teenager and
Yeah.
yeah, your journey through that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of grew up, it's a little bit cringy for me to talk about, but I grew up as a leader, and people would call me like, in a way they would refer to me like, you're the king of primary school, you're the king of like you I was just natural born leader. And it was because in hindsight now, it was because I was just living my own life until that perception started to shift, and then it kind of all went downhill, and the pressure was there. Um and then I started to kind of maybe act in a way that I thought people saw me. And then I changed high schools. Like I went at the primary school that I went to, the high school was across the road, but we moved house. So just at the end of year six, like I never saw those friends again, pretty much. We moved. And so I went to a high school that I didn't know anyone. And that was around that time that kind of was shifting from just Sean, who was like happy and wholesome and was just a natural leader, into like, who does people think Sean is? And he needs to be that. And and then so then in high school, I fell really into, who do people need me to be? Who should I be to be loved and liked and enough in other people's eyes? And I kind of fully lost myself in a way. It was like a perfect storm because I had moved and like I needed friends and like I didn't know anyone. So I began to wear this mask. And really, if you were to see me during those times, you probably wouldn't. Maybe you would, but most people would just think, "Oh, he's Sean. He's a happy kid. There's nothing wrong with him." But there's like those things under the surface, right? That was eating away at me. No one to talk to. I didn't necessarily feel safe or could feel like I could talk to my parents or anyone at school or friends. And it just kind of got worse and worse wearing a mask. And I felt really uncomfortable at high school. Like I just was wearing an outfit that I didn't feel comfortable in, like physically, the uniform, but also like emotionally and spiritually with like, felt uncomfortable in my own spacesuit, as Ram Dass would say. And yeah, and then I was kind of just, I guess, performing in a way. And I guess everyone was in some sense, to say safe in high school, because I went to a public high school. It was very, very crazy. My first day at the school, my first day at the school, there was this big fight, and it was like something from a movie. Everyone was just like, fight! And like everyone ran from different places and made this big circle around the fight. And the teachers couldn't get through because like the whole students were like blocking off. And there was just a punch up that lasted like incredibly long. It felt like
Oh,
a, yeah, so that was my high school, right? And then it was it was crazy. Like I could tell you so many stories about high school, but that led into drinking alcohol really young, get into drugs, selling drugs, like fully off the rails. But around that time, and I said this last time, I also found strength and conditioning training, weight training. And we mentioned that weights ad before, which is quite it's quite touching, isn't it? And but my auntie was cleaning out her her garage, and she was like, "Sean, do you want these weights? I've got weights at home that I'm throwing out." And something inside of me said yes, like my soul said yes. I observed my soul saying yeah, and I was like, "Why did I say yeah? I don't even know what weights are." But it was like something deep inside of me. I was like, "That was weird." Um, who said that? Who's speaking in there? And so I began to like do like 100 push-ups every day and 100 bicep curls and 100 things. And I had no idea that would do weights, but I just, for whatever reason, it just spoke to my soul. And then I was doing that. And so at least kept me somewhat grounded, but I went pretty crazy after high school and that time. I would even actually drink at school, which if you can think about that, I would like get drunk at school. Crazy to think about now. But and then after I just kept binge drinking and yeah, it was pretty wild there for a period of time. But I always had this slight thing in the back of my mind that this was just a phase and it's not really me. And then I moved away from my friend group. I got a girlfriend. I physically moved when I had the money. I bought a house and got out of there as a way to like I knew I needed to get out. Otherwise, it's like that kind of that cliche. I was going to die and end up in jail, which was the truth. Um, But then, yeah, I started to turn my life around with it began with the physical training because it was the one thing that I did for myself that only I did. It was basically like a prayer. It was like a sacred thing that no one really knew that I did. I would just keep it sacred. It was like my own, I didn't know at the time, but my own sort of offering to God of like, this is something that I'm doing for myself and making me better. And it gave me that sort of growth mindset or that understanding that I can be better because I didn't really know that at the time. And then I sort of developed discipline and focus and hard work and a care and every rep was really important to me and like I could do more and it became this thing that helped me feel confident and helped me build self-esteem. Um, it was nice to get physical compliments because I'd have girls be like, look at my arms, being like, what? That felt good, but it was much more deep than this that shallow
Yeah.
element to it. It was much more like wholesome. But then that got me into the path of like mindset and how can think differently and change not just my body, but also the way that I'm thinking. And then it got into the emotional world and the spiritual world of like all these areas that I started to develop. And then yeah, we had some challenges in life which we can talk to. We spoke about the divorce last time, but essentially it's I feel like I've developed a lot of the understandings and tools about life. I was this sort of truth seeker. I always wanted to know what life was about and who or what was God. And I had all these questions about life, but no one that I was around could answer them. So I had to go out on my own journey. And I've largely just been living my own journey for 20 years of like, where is truth and where does Sean live and what's a real life? And it's like, we spoke about last time too, getting out of my 9 to 5 job and finding my own way and essentially creating a business that is meaningful to me and very unique and authentic to me. And that's a bit of my journey.
Yeah. So, yeah, so beautiful just to like think about your whole that whole path because I personally know so many people who've had, like I really have had yeah, like an experience like that that's like pulls you kind of like way off center. And it's interesting to me that you even had the awareness that you were like, this is just a phase, and then coming out of that and those extremes, right? That kind of show you what you're made of and that being funneled into something else, like that little moment of your aunt cleaning out her garage being like, do you want these weights? And you're like, yeah, I do. And like, so suddenly that becomes um it's like a doorway, yeah, or like a new path that you start walking down. You don't really know where it leads, but you're just like, this feels right, and I'm gonna go with it. And like, there's an element of like blindness in faith, even if you don't have the lexicon or like the words to talk about faith. For most people, that it starts on its own like that, like a little seed or
Yeah.
a spark that like reminds you of the athlete that you are, or the sacredness of
Mm.
training and discipline, and like um that yeah, that's so formative, like that will walk you home, to the home within you of
Totally.
like, this is who I am.
Mm.
um yeah, you're welcome to add on to that if you want, or I can move on to, I do want to ask, like, I know I already asked you this, so it is weird, but what is the hardest thing you've ever been through? I always love to ask people this question on this podcast. The most
Yeah.
challenging thing.
Mm. Yeah. For me, man, that's a great question. I've never been asked that before. Let me
Except for 168 hours ago.
inside joke. But yeah, we spoke, and the truth is, hands down, it was my divorce. And we spoke also about like having the tools. I got married, Katie and I were together when she turned 16. Like I met her on her 16th birthday and I was like 19. I actually met her before that, which is another cool story if we want to go down that path, if we come back to it. But yeah, we got together and we, you know, bought a house really young. We got married really young, had kids really young. Um, and I had this idea in my head from my own conditioning that marriage was like final, right? It's just how it is. You can have a job for life, was what my dad would say. Bought a house, got it for life, wife for life. This is like I felt safe because like, okay, yeah, I felt secure. And then one day my wife says to me, "Oh, I've met, started a relationship with this guy. The relationship's done, like we're done." And it just like threw me. I just went into complete shock. It was a guy that I was working with at the time, and it just fucking broke me. Like it broke me in every every way. Like I just, I remember like going into shock. I didn't know I was in shock, but I was like in this state of shock. And I was, what the? And I had two sons. I still do have two sons. My sons were 1 and 3 at the time, and I remember like kissing them on the head, and they were like too young to understand, but they were like, "Don't, why is Dad leaving the house?" kind of thing. Like, Daddy, it's like heartbreaking, right? I left. I don't even know if I packed a bag. Maybe I just took a backpack, and that was like in. Mine was made up. They had started this from like emotional sort of relationship. He was leaving his wife. She was going to leave me. They started a relationship, so I left, and it broke me in so many ways at the same time. And this was very, very helpful, and maybe God only gave this to me because he knew that I could handle it. I had already done enough work on myself to handle that situation. So as heartbreaking as that was, and as much grief and loss and abandonment and a full life, sold the house, like I bought a house at like 22 or something, married really young kids, like everything that I thought was safe just went, which was became very useful for me on my journey, but not really welcomed at the time. But I had enough understanding at that time. I could handle myself enough, and I had enough of the support. I had good people around me in terms of like coaching and some mentors I had around me. I had enough tools. I had enough understanding. I knew, thankfully, I did a retreat like a year before or something, which was all about feeling my feelings. Like
Mm.
I had no idea at the time that I was going to get divorced, but I had spent a week in America, like learning how to process trauma and feel my emotions, and so valuable. And you had a journal and you had to meditate. I had good people around me. So as incredibly heartbreaking and destroying of my ego and my life at that time, it was that a lot of beauty came out of that. And we spoke last time about I instantly made the choice because Katie's mum and dad wouldn't talk. They didn't talk. And so at Christmas events and birthdays, it was all super awkward. Sometimes they'd actually kind of fight, right? Because they just hated each other. And I just knew at that time I made a conscious decision. I am never going to fight with Katie. I'm never going to have an argument. I'm going to put all this sort of bitterness and anger aside, or at least process it myself backstage so that I can show up to every family event as the man that I want to be. And I'm so grateful that I had the clarity of mind and made that choice and drew a line in the sand to do that because otherwise it could have gone very differently. Um,
Mhm.
Thankfully, I have a very good relationship with Katie and Luke. And I was just saying to you, I think before we were recording, that their daughter calls me stepdad. Like
Mhm.
they have a daughter that, and like she wants to come and hang at my house and have sleepovers. It's like so cute, but it's largely because I made a decision. I drew a line in the sand. I'm not going to, there's going to be no resentment, no bitterness, no nothing. I'm going to take responsibility at myself. So
Mhm.
it,
It's I
that yeah, that divorce, as incredibly painful as it was, and sometimes still things come up, I'll be honest. Like we've spoken about it, things still come up, and it's like, oh, there it is. There's jealousy or there's like abandonment. Huh. Hello. And it also has made me into the person and the parent that I feel incredibly honored and proud to be because I had to do that work. Like I, I'm under no like idea that I was a victim in that situation. Like I played my own role in terms of like, you know, not giving her enough attention, not forming that connection, not continually cultivating the love and that relationship, right? Like that I had my part in that in some way. And so I get to like I created that situation, whether we look at it spiritually or whether we like it from like a sort of human element. But point that I'm saying is it has with the use of help and with the use of my own understandings and tools and the responsibility, it has allowed me to become a man that I'm very proud and honored to be, and a father that I'm really honored and proud to be. So it's where we spoke about earlier with that challenge, because it was so painful and so destructive in a sense of like my own identity and ego and my own life. I've built a life that's more aligned because that get a job for life thing, get married early, get the house. I did all that for society, or rather for my dad, in a way. But it wasn't true and authentic, and it was built on an untrue base. And so it all fell away. Lost the house, lost the wife, lost the job, lost everything in a way. And I've picked myself up and I've built everything and I'm building everything consciously on a solid base of, oh, this is from God, for God. This is for my highest good. And although it's not any way of the life that I thought I was going to live when I was younger and what a life even could be, it's true.
Mhm.
And I like it. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, I just wanted to touch on like it's the times where you've shared about the like the dynamic of how you guys all like have family dinners and how your ex-wife's daughter comes over and like sleeps, like it's incredibly beautiful and just imagining children growing up in that rather than so many of us growing up with divorced parents who like literally never talk to each other. It's such a strange and disconnected experience.
Mm,
And yeah, what you described is just beautiful. And yeah, I mean, I believe that like the way that God works is like he's not wasting anything. Like exactly what you're talking about, that those experiences, as much as they like broke you, also like brought you to who you are today, where you are today.
yeah.
And yeah, there's like a beauty in that, I guess, in the I don't know. Like I write a lot about like gifts of grief, but like it would fall under that, like there's like a crushing or for me because when you create your sense of safety, you mentioned like I was safe. And you
Mm,
create that on built on things outside of you or things outside of God. It's
mm,
not as, and this is, I think, a lot of people that is their sense of safety does come from things within this world, like
yeah.
the job, the wife, the house, all those things, understandably so. And it's just
Mm,
interesting, different path that you're on, you know, of like
that's interesting.
experiencing that differently. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And now that we're talking about it, it's the the life that I'm living and creating is coming as much as possible from God. And now it's more intentional in
Mhm.
terms of like I'm aware of it, like cognizant of, oh, that's what's happening. At the
Yeah.
time, it wasn't necessary. Some points I didn't really realize it, like for as you said, with like the weights, and there's been certain sliding doors, all these moments of like straight from the divine, like here, um, which don't make sense logically, or didn't make sense logically at that time. But I feel like, yeah, largely, weirdly, now that I'm reflecting, there was like the constructed life in my head that I thought was life in society, of what I saw, or of what I thought a marriage was, and a relationship was, and a job was, and a house was, and a life was one of somewhat was with like misery. You know, got to do it. It's tough. It's you got to do it because you got to go to work because no one likes their job, but this is how it is. And like marriage is hard, and marriage is like. Yeah, and it's yes, and it's like I just thought that that's what it was because I that's what I saw, but deep down I knew that that's not what I wanted or not what was true. And now there's this other way that life is happening for me, which is like and through me and by me and every other way. It's just like, oh, it's I'm constructing it consciously with God.
Yeah.
And I'm taking the time to listen and I'm taking the time to feel in my soul, in my heart of like what the next part. And there is this blind faith. And at the same time, it's like how I feel about it now is it's more of like play. It's more of like this eager anticipation and play of,
Mhm.
oh, what's going to happen? And there's this excitement and this joy. It's like I kind of used to think that faith was like, in a way, and it is. And sometimes, if when you have fear about it, it's like, well, I'll have faith, even though I'm really scared. But I'm not scared. I don't really have much fear. I'm blind in a way. Like but I feel things. I feel things in my body and in my heart and in my soul of like, I just have this level of trust. And even though we're speaking about it now, I was playing with Maeve, who's my stepdaughter, and she was like, Sean, let's play the trust game. So she does this and she just falls back. I'm like, what's the trust? Oh, I go catch her. And then she just starts jumping and she does it forward and she's like, oh. And I'm just taking it lower. And it's for a kid, it's a dad. I'm playing the trust game with God. It's like, well, let's go.
Yeah.
But it's fun because I fully trust.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. That's a beautiful visual. Hmm. Yeah, it's like a free fall off a cliff sometimes. That like
Mm,
that trust or faith with God.
yeah,
Sometimes forward, sometimes backwards. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. I'm honestly just seeing if there's anything else I want to cover with you today, or if there's
Mm.
any, maybe I can also hand it to you if like there are any other stories that you wanted to share or something you wanted to touch on.
I think one thing that I do want to sort of add in or offer to people if they're listening and like, yeah, is those whispers from source, those whispers from within. I have certain moments like that. I mentioned that, weights moment. There was another time where, really weirdly, I used to be friends with Katie, my ex-wife's older sister,
Mm,
and I must have been like 14. And I was over, we had like 14-year-old boyfriends and 14-year-old girlfriends, and we just like went over and just hung out, right? Watched a movie together or whatever we did,
mm,
hanging out um one weekend night or whatever. And Alex had a younger sister, and I went to the kitchen to get like a glass of water from the kitchen, right? And the sister was on the computer, which was next to the kitchen. And I'd never met her before. I kind of knew she had a younger sister, but she didn't go to our school. So I was like, I was just aware, but never met her. And I got the water, and for whatever reason, I was just feeling wanted to talk. And she was talking on like Messenger back in the day or whatever it was. And I was like, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm just talking to some friends on Messenger. I can't remember what it was called back at the time, MSN or whatever the thing was.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. Cool. All right. Cool. See ya. And she was like, bye. And I had a lightning bolt strike of something or someone said to me, you're going to marry that girl one day. And I was
Mm.
like, that's weird. I was like, I remember getting my glass of water and walking back to my friends being like, that's a weird thought.
Uh-huh.
And then I totally f forgot about it, didn't remember it. And then after I was married to Katie, that we were talking with Alex and all the friends, and we were talking about old times. And I was like, oh, I remember I came to your house one day. She's like, that's right, that's that old house. And we're there. And then I was like, oh my God. I was like, it's you. And I told them, and they're like, no way. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, you had the kitchen there, and there was a computer. And they're like, how do you remember that? I was like, I remember talking to you. And as I was walking out of the kitchen, God told me that I was going to marry that girl. I was like, that's so weird. And they're like, oh my God. So there's there's these whispers and these lightning bolts, and there's all these things from God and from internally that I have been speaking to me, and my life has got better in direct proportion to me listening to them and having the courage and the ability and the choice to listen to that. There was also a time where I quit my job and I just put my keys back in my pocket and just left. No savings, no plan, figured it out, right? Because I just knew that the path that I wasn't on wasn't for me. And so I've continued and I continue as much as I can now to like listen to God and like my intuition, I guess if I use that word, as much as possible. So I really feel strongly that God is wanting the best for everyone and is, his desires for you are your desires that are coming forth, and we want this beautiful life and we're here to live as much as possible. And sometimes it's just taken for me to get out of my own way. It takes us for us to get out of our own way of fear and to have that faith and to create a vision of the life that we want and to have that trust and faith in ourselves and to move towards. And I feel strongly that about our life is meant to be lived really from a place of our own dreams, our own unique mission and purpose, and what we want to do, and those desires that we feel to start that business or to have that relationship or to travel and to do these things. And I really, I guess I feel strongly about inviting people to choose that because I know how much beauty and joy and life is on the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I want to ask this because it's something that people ask me frequently and something that it's like always an inquiry um that I like that I because I feel like I've always had a fairly good connection with God. And in the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years, have had like much more intentional like dialogue and
Mm,
prayer. And but I'll ask you if you were as somebody listening in, like, and it's so personal, like, but what do you do that helps you to like keep that line open, or
hmm
um,
hmm
like if somebody was like, okay, that sounds great. How do I develop that?
Yeah, yeah. I would say the first thing is I was born with a strong intuition, and I would say very strong intuition. I don't necessarily know if everyone was born with that. I don't know. I don't think they were. I also know it can be developed. I just had this already strong calling of something's calling me, and I was aware of it, but I didn't have words for it. Couldn't talk with anyone about it. I just knew something. I just knew. Um, I just knew, and I was kind of praying from a young age, but I was not brought up in a religious household. In fact, religion was poo-pooed. It was like my parents would identify as atheists, but I just had a connection, and I didn't know what the thing was, or I just knew that something, that internal knowing, right? So one thing that I do is I listen to my intuition, my internal knowing, and it's in small moments too. I might be thinking in my head, oh, I need to get the washing off the line, but something tells me check your phone or do this or like message that. But there's just something that tells me something. And logically, it's like, no, get the washing off. Otherwise, it's gonna get too late and it's gonna start to get down. Something is just telling me something. Even I walk out the front door, left or right, I'm just listening. I'm really listening to my knowing, and it doesn't make sense sometimes, but it's like this. And so little moments, but it's not very little at all. It's very this builds it. It's builds a trust is to listen to the little whispers that say, message that person, reach out to them, because everything is a web, everything is interconnected in the universe. And so when you have a thing to message a person, it's like they're string on the other side of the world or wherever that is next door. There's a cord there, there's an energetic cord. So I understand logically now, I understand how the universe works, but as a kid I didn't. But point that I'm making is one thing that I consciously do is to listen to what he's telling me, what I'm being guided to from my heart or soul, or just in moments, day to day. And I actively choose to do that
Mhm.
continuously. I actively listen to what I know I'm meant to be doing. The second thing is meditation. The third thing is prayer. The fourth thing is spending time with your vision. You and I have done some vision work. So if anyone wants help with that, like with that vision that you and I did was like the most deep one I've done, but spending time listening to my heart and my soul of like what is my vision, because it's important to know what you want. Doing some like dropping into like your dream or your vision, that's your unique sort of seed. That's really helpful. Clearing my own fears and emotions is really helpful, because the fact of the matter is you are God and that we are all interconnected. And the only thing that gets in the way is our own mind and our own thinking and our own fears. So when I've learned how to process my own fears and emotions, then I can attune more clearly to him. Meditation's been a big one. Um, so then these are some of the things that I do now, and I basically consciously connect to him morning, throughout the day, through night, just constantly connecting to life, to be asked, to be guided, to be supported for whatever I want. And then just walk with him throughout the day. It's consciously. I've realized that for me right now, it has to be a conscious thing, where it is a conscious thing where yes, I'm spirit, I'm God, and I have all these, I have my unique soul, that I'm consciously choosing to connect to him throughout the day. And the more that I do that, the stronger that the connection happens. Gratitude. I've told you before, right now, my weird thing is, I've never heard anyone talk about this, but my weird thing is, I feel like I can plug my mind into source, like a phone charger into the cord. I can do that. I don't know how I did that. I think it's mainly because I did a lot of meditation. I can just plug my mind into the one mind and be one. But that's a weird thing that I'm doing right now. But those other things do have been incredibly helpful.
Feel like that's a weird new thing.
I don't necessarily recommend it. Not that I don't recommend it, but that's well on our next podcast next week or next year.
You're like, if you were, or like, what's the like fine print, where it's like,
Viewer discretion. Yeah.
yeah, no, or like use at your own risk or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Testing
this
you
guy, and I
completely.
listened to a podcast. He told me to plug my mind into something like that.
The results may vary.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me and like doing this for a second time. I've never had that happen before. Yeah, this was really great. Our own private podcast last week was also great, and I think we covered the most important things. Yeah, totally an honor to have you here and just to share your vision. For me personally, it's really cool to hear details that I remember you speaking like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, where you're like, I want this thing. And one of them, just to briefly reflect this back to you, one of them was to have a team of other coaches you were training internationally who
Mm,
could provide the service that you're providing. And so it was
mm,
really cool to hear that, just like, you know,
mm.
checking that
Yeah,
off. Yeah, I mean, there
yeah.
are many elements that we don't need to get into, but yeah.
Thank you. I said this last week, and I'll say it again because it's important to me, and I think it's important to say is that of how much you've been a light in my life. We've done some coaching together, and you've helped me a lot. And I kind of talk about like the big sister energy, like where I have two brothers, I have two sons. I'm really grateful for you and the that sort of big sister, that sister energy of supporting me with my own internal energy and align my energy more towards God and more towards truth. And you've been a lighthouse or an example of someone who, in my mind and heart is living this sort of pure life that's uncommon. And it has been helpful for me to use you in a way as like as an example and a reminder to me of I would say purity and wholesomeness and being children of God and doing the right things and making the right choices because I have my own distorted parts and when I reflect on you and some other people in my life that inspire me, it's a reminder to it just helps me clear away any darkness or bring light to that darkness and yeah, you've been a real blessing in my life. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean. It's always an honor. Yeah. Then I also have made lots of distorted choices. So just I was like,
You're
just
right,
be
Sean.
real.
I am perfect. I'm pure love and I'm pure life. You're right.
I know. I was like, by the way. uh, but yeah, thank you. And yeah, it's always an honor. And yeah, I don't know. I thanks for sharing your story and for doing the work you're doing with the young
Thank you.
athletes. And yeah,
Mhm.
I'll turn off the recording for now. I think we captured it. Thank you for joining me, and um, yeah, I'll stop the recording and then talk to you for a moment.
Okay, cool. We are recording success.
Thank goodness.